The observation deck of the Meridian Dawn hummed with the gentle rhythm of life support systems as Mira Thorne reviewed the day's cultural exchange reports. 3 months into humanity's first diplomatic mission with the Velkari, a proud, lupine species whose civilization spanned 12 star systems, and she still marveled at how fragile interstellar relations could be. The Velkari measured worth by strength, by the ability to hunt, to protect, to dominate when necessary. They'd been skeptical of humans from the start. Too soft, they said. Too weak. A species that needed machines to breathe in space, that couldn't run faster than their own primitive ground vehicles, that lacked claws or fangs or any natural weapons. The treaty negotiations had been tense, held together by threads of mutual economic interest, rather than respect. Mira had grown accustomed to the sidelong glances, the barely concealed disdain in the amber eyes of the Velkari diplomats. She'd learned to hold her head high, to speak with confidence, to never show uncertainty. It was exhausting. A soft, chittering sound pulled her attention to the doorway. Rocky, the young Velkari cub who'd been assigned to the human quarters as part of the cultural exchange program, stood hesitantly at the threshold. His silvery fur was still downy with youth, his ears too large for his narrow face. At barely 7 solar cycles, he was considered a juvenile among his people, old enough to begin learning, too young to truly understand. Ambassador Thorne? His translator collar rendered his growling speech into smooth standard. I was exploring. I found something in the storage compartment. I didn't mean to intrude. Mira's stomach tightened. The storage compartment. The one place she kept her personal effects. The fragments of Earth she'd brought to remind herself of home during the long isolation of deep space. What did you find, Rocky? The cub padded forward, his claws clicking softly against the metal deck. In his paws, he clutched a slim datapad, its screen glowing with an image that made Mira's breath catch. It was her. Maybe 4 years old, gap-toothed and grinning, covered in mud from head to toe. Her mother crouched beside her in the photograph, laughing. Equally filthy. They'd been planting trees in the backyard that day. Mira remembered the feel of cool earth between her fingers, the joy of making something grow. You were a cub too? Rocky's voice was soft, almost reverent. His ears had perked forward, his tail still with attention. Yes, Mira said carefully. All humans start as cubs. We call them children. Rocky's eyes widened. He swiped through the datapad with trembling paws. More images flickered past Mira, learning to ride a bicycle. Her father's hands steadying the handlebars. Mira, at her first school concert, dressed in a wrinkled costume, beaming despite forgetting half her lines. Mira as a teenager, awkward and uncertain, braces gleaming in a smile that didn't quite reach her worried eyes. You were small, Rocky breathed. Weak. Helpless. Very much so, Mira admitted. But the elders say humans are born dangerous, that you come into the world ready to deceive, to manipulate, to conquer. The cub's translator struggled with the confusion in his voice. They say you're predators who hide behind smiles. Mira knelt down, bringing herself to Rocky's eye level. May I show you something? She took the datapad gently and pulled up another folder. Video files this time. She selected one at random, her brother's 5th birthday party. The recording showed a backyard full of small human children, shrieking with laughter as they chased each other, stumbling over their own feet, crying when they scraped their knees, then forgetting their tears moments later for cake and presents. Rocky watched in silence, his intelligent eyes tracking every movement. We're born helpless, Rocky, completely dependent. A human infant can't walk, can't feed itself, can't even hold its own head up for months. We're vulnerable for years, more vulnerable than almost any other species we've encountered. Then how? Rocky looked up at her, genuine confusion in his gaze. How did you conquer your world? How did you reach the stars? 1. Mira smiled, and for the first time in months, it wasn't the diplomatic smile she'd perfected. It was real. Because we protect each other. Because when we're weak, others are strong for us. Because we remember what it was like to be small and afraid, and we refuse to let anyone face that alone. She pulled up more images. Humans building schools in war zones. Doctors traveling to distant planets to heal the sick. Engineers designing spacecraft with handholds positioned for species with different limb configurations. Scientists sharing discoveries freely across the galactic network. We don't conquer because we're strong, Rocky. We thrive because we learned that true strength isn't in claws or fangs, it's in community. In compassion, in the choice to be kind when we could be cruel. The cub was quiet for a long moment. Then, slowly, he reached out and touched one of the photographs. Mira as a child, holding hands with her grandmother. Both of them looking at something beyond the camera's view, with expressions of pure wonder. The elders say weakness is shameful, Rocky whispered. That to need help is to admit defeat. And what do you think? Rocky's ears flattened, then rose again. When he spoke, his voice was stronger. I think I was wrong about humans. I think maybe the elders are wrong too. He looked up at Mira with new eyes. You were a cub like me. You needed protection like I do. But you didn't let that stop you from becoming strong. You learned a different kind of strength. Mira felt something shift in that moment, not just in Rocky, but in the very air between them. Understanding, perhaps, or the beginning of it. Would you like to see more? She asked gently. Rocky nodded eagerly, settling beside her as she scrolled through years of memories, and as she shared stories of scraped knees and hard lessons, of failures and growth and the long, patient process of becoming, she saw the cub's perception transform. By the time Rocky's guardian came to collect him for evening meal, the young Velkari held himself differently. He paused at the doorway, looking back at Mira with something that might have been respect. Real respect. Not the grudging acknowledgement of force, but the genuine admiration of understanding. Ambassador Thorn, thank you for showing me your cub self. After he left, Mira stood alone in the observation deck, looking out at the stars. Tomorrow, Rocky would tell others what he'd learned. Some would dismiss it, but some, maybe just enough, would begin to wonder, would begin to question what strength really meant. And perhaps, she thought, that was how bridges were truly built. Not through demonstrations of power, but through the courage to show vulnerability. To say, I was small once, and afraid, and I survived because others cared. The stars gleamed back at her, indifferent and eternal. But somewhere among them, minds were changing, one cub at a time.